In an alternative universe, the hotshot pilot Maverick did not fly an F-14 Tomcat, but F-15 Sea Eagle in the 1986 movie Top Gun. This is in a nutshell the story of why Maverick almost flew the F-15 in the movie Top Gun. In 1974, the Navy deployed its first F-14 Tomcats. The Tomcat was developed as an alternative to the General Dynamics F-111B, which never saw service. The Navy wanted a two-seat interceptor to attack bombers heading for the carrier fleet. Instead, Defense Secretary Robert McNamara forced the Navy together with the Air Force in a joint F-111 program. The Navy disliked the F-111B, and as soon as McNamara left office, they seized the opportunity to ditch the F-111B in favor for the Grumman F-14. But as a quickly developed alternative to the F-111B, the F-14 had its own issues. The Tomcat inherited the TF-30 engines from the F-111B, and although excellent at pushing the 74,000-pound Tomcat, these engines were also very sensitive to handle. If a pilot adjusted the throttle too quickly, he risked compressor stalls, shutting down an engine. To make the situation even worse, with the two engines mounted 9 feet apart, the similar thrust would cause the remaining engine to push the aircraft into a flat spin. While the first Tomcats took off from the carriers, the F-15 was still on the drawing board. In 1970, first reports of a new Soviet fighter, the MiG-25 Foxbat, reached the West. Based on the incomplete reports, Pentagon experts feared the MiG-25 would run circles around the then-in-service F-4 Phantoms. Thus, the Pentagon launched the development of the F-15 with the sole goal to build a better air superiority fighter than the Foxbat. Only later would the West learn that the Foxbat was not the fighter we believed it to be. And although the Navy already had the F-14, it did not stop McDonnell Douglas to propose a navalized version of the F-15. And there were some arguments in favor for a naval F-15. The F-15 was not only lighter than the F-14, 28,000 pounds versus 44,000 pounds empty weight, it was also more maneuverable, and in similar configuration, the F-15 had a better thrust-to-weight ratio. On top of that, the F-15 was roughly $10 million cheaper. Making the F-15 suitable for carrier operations would take some work. The F-15A has a tailhook, but this is more an emergency feature and not designed to stop the F-15 during every landing, so the hook needed some reinforcement. Also, the landing gear needed reinforcement, as with every landing the F-15 would slam hard on the deck of the rocking carrier. And to get the F-15 below decks, the outer 15 feet of the wings had to fold up. All these changes only added 3,000 pounds to the airframe, making the F-15N still more maneuverable, faster and cheaper than the F-14. So what kept the Navy from swapping the F-14 for the Sea Eagle? Even though the F-15 would outfly the F-14, one thing was missing, the AIM-54 Phoenix missile. The F-14 was basically an airframe designed around the integrated weapon system of the radar and the AIM-54 Phoenix. The radar allowed the Tomcat to track 24 targets and attack 6 targets simultaneously with the AIM-54s. The missile itself could hit targets up to 100 miles away. McDonnell Douglas teamed up with Hughes Aircraft in an attempt to modify the F-15 radar to interface with the AIM-54, renaming the Sea Eagle in the process to the F-15N PHX. However, the added weight of missiles and modifications to the radar rendered the improved Eagle so heavy it lost all its performance advantages over the F-14. In 1973, a Senate subcommittee convened and even proposed a fly-off between the F-15 and the F-14, but it never manifested, so the Navy kept its F-14s. In the end, both the F-14 and F-15 would fly alongside a cheaper alternative, respectively the F-18 and the F-16. Although the F-15 would end up with its own mini Phoenix in the form of the AIM-120 AMRAAM, the Phoenix was in the 1970s the deciding argument for the Navy to stick with the F-14. And so Maverick ended up in the F-14 when he went to fighter weapons school. Perhaps the biggest victim of the Navy's choice for the F-14 is Rooster. There was no room in the single-seat F-15 for a radar interception officer, so Goose, Rooster's father, would never have ejected against the canopy and would still be around to watch his son fly alongside Maverick in the second Top Gun movie. Thank you for watching. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by subscribing or clicking the like button. If you want to see more Navy and military aviation videos, follow these links.